Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, to this session, which promises to be amazing. Mrs. Lakshmi Murdeshwar Puri was already here, I think, about 10 months back when the book was launched by Honorable Governor, and there was a book reading session by Chopra Sahab. So I'll try to do my best navigating you through this book. But well, before I start, मैं हिंदी में बोलता हूँ थोड़ा सा. जब भी संस्कृत में एक परंपरा रही है कि जब भी कोई किसी ग्रंथ की रचना की जाती थी तो जो कवि होते थे वो हमेशा कहते थे कि मैं क्या इस काबिल हूँ कि मैं ये कर पाऊँगा कि नहीं कर पाऊँगा. तो रघुवंश महाकाव्यम वॉज रिटन बाय कालिदास. उसमें रामचंद्र जी, उनके पूर्वज दिलीप, उनकी गौसेवा वगैरह के बारे में जिक्र है. लेकिन ग्रंथ शुरू करने से पहले कालिदास जी कहते हैं कि मंदः कवियशः प्रार्थी गमिष्यामि उपहास्यताम प्रांशुलभ्ये फले लोभात उद्बाहुरे बामनः. जैसे कि इस वंश की परंपरा का जिक्र करने के लिए मैं शायद उपहास्यता का पात्र होऊंगा. जैसे कि कोई ऊंचे पेड़ पे लगा हुआ फल जो ऊंचे बाह वाले ऊंचे व्यक्ति द्वारा तोड़ा जा सकता है, मैं बार बार उछल के उसको तोड़ने का प्रयास कर रहा हूँ. एक ये श्लोक है. दूसरा श्लोक है कि क्व सूर्य प्रभुवो वंश क्वचाल्प विषया मति है तीर्षुर दुस्तरम मोहाद उड़पेनास्मि सागरम. कि कहाँ तो मैं मंद यश को प्राप्त करने वाला कवि, छोटा सा कवि, कहाँ मैं रामचंद्र जी के वंश का जिक्र करने जा रहा हूँ. तो मेरा प्रयास कुछ ऐसा ही रहेगा कि इतने बड़े सागर को पार करने के लिए एक छोटी सी नाव से जो व्यक्ति इच्छा करता है, तो आपके सामने बैठ के मुझे यही प्रतीत हो रहा है. लेकिन मैं कोशिश करूँगा. उन्होंने अल्टीमेटली ग्रंथ की रचना की जो बहुत पॉपुलर हुआ. हम भी कोशिश करेंगे कि इस सत्र को अच्छी तरह से आगे बढ़ाएं. नाउ टू टेक यू फॉरवर्ड, देयर वाज आई स्टार्ट with a quote by Oscar Wilde that all art is surface and symbol. If you try to go beneath the surface, you do so at your own peril. If you try to decipher the symbols, you do so at your own peril. So any work of fiction, any work of art, literature, music, is a creation of the artist, but how we interpret it is up to the reader. How we reflect, we read it from our own perspective. So when this book reading session was done earlier, and Chopra Sahab was moderating the session, he would have interpreted the book in his own way. And I read with my own perspective. So taking you forward, ma'am, first of all, I think we would like to start with the central theme of the book, which is I think the central theme runs with the Muktabai's quote, Muktabai's Abhang, जो मराठी में है. तो मैं संस्कृत, ये अंग्रेजी अनुवाद भी इसका है इसमें, जो जिसमें swallowing the sun का जिक्र किया जाता है, जो इसकी central theme है. The ant flies into the sky, she swallows the sun, another miracle. A barren woman begets a son, a scorpion burrows down to the nether realms, and Shish, the snake king, bows his head at its feet. A fly gives birth to a hawk. Muktabai sees it all. Muktabai laughs. So along with इसी में swallowing the sun का जिक्र किया जाता है. तो मैम, I think first of all, let me request you to talk about the theme. The theme is obviously this one. There are themes about Malati, who's the proponent of the book. There are references to freedom struggle. So over to you to tell us something about the theme, why you chose it, what is it that is in your mind, and about. So first of all about the theme, then about maybe the characters.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you, Manoj. And I'm indeed humbled by your description of the levels. I don't think that is true at all. This is it's my first foray into the world of literature, into the valley of words. And so I come here with great humility, but of course high hopes. And it's coming back to Dehradun. And I want to thank Dehradun and the people of Dehradun and Chopra ji for giving me this second chance of an opportunity, because first time, as you said, he was the one who introduced me to the literary world of Dehradun. I know that it is such a rich cultural center. It's a literary center, apart from being the capital of Uttarakhand. But also, It's a spiritual center. So in so many ways, when my novel finds a voice here, and I have the honor to be honored by the Valley of Words, it is a very, very poignant and honor-filled moment for me. So thank you so much. And you asked about the theme. Muktabai was a 13th century saint, a teenage saint, because she died very young. And she was the precursor, I would say, of everything that women's empowerment stands for. But it's also about human, the indestructibility of human spirit, and also of eternal hope. So she talks about, as you read out the whole verse, but the verse is also about how, if you keep faith, if you dare, if you persist, what seems impossible becomes possible. That you can break boundaries, you can make miracles if you dare, if you keep faith. So that is the context in which this novel, the title is Swallowing the Sun. And now I think after 1 year with how it has become so popular, so loved by readers everywhere, I think the term swallowing the sun has come to mean doing something impossible, or trying to, or breaking boundaries, people breaking boundaries, achieving something that is not been achieved before. So that is the context. Now the characters in this, the women characters, they are seen as achieving, trying to achieve that, to rise above their circumstances and limitations and dare to do something different, dare to be extraordinary from their ordinariness and rise above their ordinariness. And whether it is Malati, the chief protagonist, and she is been loved by all the readers, and from Malati, who as a little girl from rural Maharashtra goes on to become a lawyer, a fiery lawyer, and defends freedom fighters, to her sister, who also joins this journey and supports her in this journey, to Himakaki, Sarla, all the other women characters in this book, who are really driven as if by magic to swallow the sun in their own realms, in their own ways. Similarly, the men characters, but also at the national level, if you look at that time, in the 1920s, this book is set in between 1918 and 1952 or so. So in that period, if you look at the national leaders who were striving for India's independence, nobody would have thought that we would be able to get our independence by 1947. Lord Irwin at that time famously said that India would be ready for independence in another 600 years. So that seemed an impossible goal, but they achieved it.
Well, I'd request you to tell us about building of the character. Like, I'll give the readers, of course you should read the book, but just to give you a little glimpse into what the book is all about. It's about primarily the story of Malati, who is from a rural background, who fights a boy called Bhiku in the school. And then she always revolts against the established norms. So it is about the character of Malati, who you have built very meticulously. So her sister Kamala, her father, Baba, who even in those times was in favor of women education, girl education, girl empowerment. So these are issues which were emerging along with the freedom struggle. And one more character, which is you said is very close to you, which is Sarla. So I would request you to tell us how you build characters, because maybe you have taken inspiration from someone, maybe as Governor Saab said, your mother or and your father and some other people, some imaginary figures, but those imaginary figures have to be turned into real life situations. So,
Sure.
it's part fact, part fiction. How you build the character as a writer, how you take us through this. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, this novel is certainly inspired by my parents and their extraordinary journeys, and I'm saying in plural. But it's not a biography because, a fiction provides me the space to reveal the truths that biographies tend to camouflage. So I have some of the characters, like like Malati. And by the way, I've kept the original name of my mother, Malati Desai, in the novel as well. And then her father, Baba, who was a social reformer and ahead of his times, fought for girls' education, fought against child marriage, early and child marriage, and who really enabled Malti and her sister, and also then later on in his own villages that he established, he went on to advocate for girls' education more broadly. So he is also inspired by my Nanaji. And then you have Guru, the male protagonist, Malti's friend, lover, and then husband, who is inspired by my father. But all the other characters are, those that are based on part memory, but also very much from the third eye of imagination, from the epiphanies that I got. And Sarla is one of those characters who is not part of that stack of memories, but she's very much someone who appeared to me. So some of the characters, as you write, they appear to you from nowhere, from the great unknown, and then they waylay you. And that's what has happened. Now, Sarla, as you know, is the daughter of Malak, Malti's brother-in-law, the feudal lord brother-in-law, the finance minister in the Maharaja of Vaishali court. And she is resentful of her stepmother, but at the same time, she has this love-hate relationship. But she sets out to be different, to overcome the traditional, and she expresses herself so vividly in every way, and is not afraid to hide her desires. And there I think I would like to also make a point here, which I try to do in the larger advocacy of gender equality and women's empowerment, that she, for me, stands for a woman who uses tradition, who weaponizes tradition to demolish the shibboleths of patriarchy and oppression of women and their subjugation or their being put aside. So here is a situation where Sarla, Malati and Kamala have become friends with Sarla, and Sarla has got married after having, her love affairs, if you will call them that, with first her English tutor, Robert, and later with a freedom fighter. And then she's married now to an aristocrat. But she is very unhappy, and she complains of how he is not evoking passion. So then Malati, teases her by saying, but I thought that only men are supposed to feel passion. And so Sarla turns around and says, you modern girls, you are studying in college, you still think that this is the kind of division of desire that we should be looking at? And then she quotes Kautilya, the master strategist, the diplomat, the statesman. She quotes him to say that women have twice the hunger for food as men. They have 8 times the sexual desire. And then she goes on to say that they are twice as astute as men, and 6 times, and they have 6 times the courage as men. So then the girls don't believe her, because she is, prone to hallucinate and to also dissimulate. So she then quotes the Sanskrit verse to them, and then they believe that this is so. So there are many references in this book where the tradition is evoked to, as I said, to demolish notions and interpretations of tradition, to reinforce not patriarchy, but to destroy it, and also to reinforce the greatness of Indian culture, which has, very uniquely in the world, deified women, the concept of the Devi. And then there are these episodes where Baba tells the girls that you can be goddesses too. And later we have Guru in his romancing of, and it's not only a romancing, it's a very special relationship that I have drawn between Guru and Malati, where there is so much mutual respect, and there's an intellectual, there's an emotional, there is a psychological, there is a spiritual, and there is also an aesthetic connection between the two. And that's also my definition of love in its true senses, when you are connected in all of those points. And there too, Guru deifies her. And there is a poem that I would like to read. Madhumalti, you are the goddess installed in my temple's sanctum sanctorum, to the exhilarating heartbeats of celestial drums. My fevered chanting and joyous limpid songs, you accept me as your devotee, and I pledge my whole life to you, my dreams, dreamt and undreamt, for you to see and turn into miracles, to nightmares those ghoulish pretenders to chase away with your trident and discuss. To be great for your sake, not for mine. I aspire to reach distant horizons and swing back to my cove where calm inner rivers of happiness flow, meander and rest. I will in turn shield you from non-believers in your divinity. We will be iconoclasts. In other ways, to show them we can be and do anything. The world will turn around us and be at your feet, seeking your benediction. For night seeking your benediction. So I will protect you from non-believers in your divinity. So, this is the essence of the invocation of that Devi in every woman, in every girl. That we must keep alive. And that's one of the messages of this book.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Uh, uh, let's talk of creating the book as such. I remember Farag Gorakhpuri Sahab, he once said, when he was very old, he said, वो आलम होता है मुझ पर जब फ़िक्र गज़ल मैं करता हूँ खुद अपने ख्यालों को हमदम में हाथ लगाते डरता हूँ. So,
क्या बात?
when you are creating, you are in a
Yeah,
trance.
yeah.
So let's talk about this craft of creating this novel. Also, you have used Marathi very extensively, which I don't find, people don't
Yes,
find in
yes.
any English. But it flows very, very beautifully along with the narration of the. So there are references to, a lot of references to Marathi literature, art, Marathi poems, and of course Abhang and things like that. So first of all, of course, you will have inclination towards using Marathi, but then you have also given references to Greek mythology. You have talked about Shakespeare. You have talked about Kalidas, which shows you as a very well-read reader and how you very beautifully enmesh everything into the narration of the of the book. So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us about use of Marathi, and whatever comes to your mind besides that.
Well, this is, as you know, I've come into the literary world very late in life. I always joke I was the youngest, perhaps the youngest to join the Foreign Service, but I'm a little late to join the literary world. But so I will only say, in retrospect, what the craft was, because when I went into it, I just went into it saying to myself, this is my way and I will do it. Of course, one read a lot about how to write books, how to write a novel, but nothing can teach you more than what you yourself learn as you write. So I had a very vague notion of the overall structure, the story, very, very vague. And then I started writing. And as I started writing, then the characters emerged. They waylaid me. Then the incidents happened and all of that. So what is this? This novel is it turned out to be a multi-genre novel. Because people tell you must decide which genre you want to engage in. But this is a multi-genre novel. It's a coming-of-age story. It is an epic saga, epic love story, and grand romance. Many people have told me that such grand romance has not been written about in our literature in recent times. Indian writing in English in recent times. It is a women's empowerment story. It is also both historical fiction, but also very contemporary. It is about young people and for young people. It resonates, and that's why I think it has become so popular, because it resonates so much with all genders, across geographies, although you said Marathi, and I'll come to Marathi, but it has resonated so well across all geographies and generations, and that is something that I'm very happy about, and that's what I've tried to invoke. And this is a tribute to our ancestors, yours, mine, all of whom fought for our freedom and kinship, as Malati Lal says. So that is the context in which this novel evolved. And as I already told you, it is it is driven by the story of, inspired by my parents, but it goes beyond, and it's an intertwining of personal and national histories. So I've brought in many of the national characters in cameo roles and blended them together with the individual, the protagonists of the novel. And engaged in world building based on, also, you see, I was born to my parents when they were 45 years old. And so I very much inhabited their world through their stories. You know, the governor and also Sanjeev ji spoke about the power of words. But I believe very much in the power of storytelling. But, you know, from words to storytelling. And that's why this novel is also about, in some ways, taking forward messages, key messages about women's empowerment, about young people, especially today in India, when we are the country with the largest youth population, and also largest youth population ever in history. So what should young people take away from that extraordinary generation of freedom fighters and unsung heroes? And sheroes, and that's also what I do. I bring out the importance and the contribution of young women in the freedom movement, and how today they should be also engaging in, we are working towards our second, I would say, freedom milestone and Vikasit Bharat goal of 2047, 100 years from the time that we got our first independence. And there, the young people cannot be bystanders, cannot be the objects. They have to be the subjects and claim agencies. And both young women and men have to take this forward. So that was also the message and the idea behind this novel. In order to go back, because many young people have asked me, why did you go back into the past? Also, on the gender equality and women's empowerment issues, I felt that it's important to show how 100 years ago, there were people who looked ahead, who were so far-sighted, who fought these battles, who did impossible things. And even in the area of claiming women's agency, and so much has changed, but also so much remains to be done in that area. And I've also talked about how men have a role to play as much as women have a role to claim their own agency, but men have a role to be, as in UN Women we used to say, he for she's. So that is the whole context in which this has been written. And as for Marathi, if I will come to the Marathi.
And the sounds, and the sound, you know, extensive use of sounds that you have done. Maybe you can read some portion where sounds are there, dhak dhak and poo poo, and many Hindi words also, poo poo, gad gad, dhak dhak.
So let me read some passages.
Ma'am, there are a large number of young girls and ladies, and they can't even imagine that, you know, they could, sometime, there was a time when they were not even allowed to go to schools.
Yes.
And today we are at a stage where the majority of audience is women.
Yes.
So that's how far we have traveled.
Yes. So this is from a chapter called Becoming Elphinstonians. So imagine 100 years ago, these young girls, Malati and Kamala, they are the first, they are the pioneers going to Elphinstone College. They have come from Ratnagiri school, a village school where they were attending school, only two of them in a class of 60 boys. And then they have been to Ahilya Ashram, an orphanage cum school in Indore. And from there, now they are getting admission into Elphinstone College as 6 girls in a class of 30. So imagine the trepidation they feel as 9-yard sari wearing young ladies. So this is that moment in their life. As Malati and Kamala stood on the seashore near the guest house, they pensively watched the mighty sun dim his orange lamp in the sky in gentle preparation for darkness. In that fantastical pink, purple, and blue light, they spied the waves rushing in with shells gathered from the sea's bosom in white-laced cups, squandering them onto the Juhu beach. Then Malati remembers her mother telling her that you must listen to the shells, because the shells recite mantras in your trusting ears. But at that time, the girls could hear only the simple percussion of the ancient sea creatures the shells carried within them. Dhingana, dhin dhin, dhingana, dhingana. Now, in 1925, as young women of 17, 18 years bracing for the most trying period of their lives, they picked up the seashells again. The fan-shaped shell, the spiral cone, the sundial, the cowrie, and yes, the unmistakable trumpet conch shell of Lord Vishnu. This time they did hear the mantras and found the clues to the music of their future. The shh, shh, shh of calm, the gud, gud, gud of ebullience, the hush, husha, husha of power, the dhadak, dhadak, dhak of affirmation, and the ahom, ahom, ahom sound of benediction. Malati and Kamala felt a surge of confidence, the ebbing of fear.
Thank you, ma'am. This is all along the book. Please wrap. Okay. How much time do we have? We'll coordinate accordingly. No, we started late, so so you have to tell us how much time we have.
So,
yeah, I understand. So maybe another 5 minutes, all right. So, ma'am.
so very sorry,
No,
sorry,
no,
no,
please go on.
please, no.
No, I don't want to interrupt your flow of thought.
No, I was just wanting to come back to the Marathi and the poetry you referred to. Yes, my parents, I was brought up in a very literary and poetic home. Both my parents used to converse almost in poetry. And so that's why the Sanskrit and English and Marathi poetry. But Marathi was something, I was born and brought up in Delhi. But my parents made sure that we were immersed in Marathi theater, Natya Sangeet, poetry, music, and every day my father would recite a poem from a book of poems that he had, and he would sing each of those poems to a particular tune, which is very unique to him. So when I now, which I have now transferred onto this, I've threaded them into the tapestry of this novel. And now when I recite it, many people say that it's my father's voice singing through me, ventriloquizing through me. So if you, with your permission, I will give a sampling of those Marathi poems and encourage all of you to, when you read, to get the translations, because we don't have time. But I will, with your permission, do that. So the first poem that is on the first page of this book, and which is transcribed by my father, which is called Prem Lake by Bal Kavi, one of the greatest Marathi poets. And this was invoked by Guru when he proposes, first professes his love for Malati, and it is an ode to the evening goddess who is writing a love letter.
Maybe we can have one of the poems, because they want us to
Sure,
wrap up in 5
sure,
minutes. So any one of your choice, and
Sure.
possibly then we can throw the session to the
Sure,
people, and
sure,
if
sure.
they want to ask you something.
Yeah. मेघांचे करी भूर्जपत्र धरुनी अस्तांजली प्रत्यही स्वर्गीचे नवलेख कुमकुम रसे ती सांध्य देवी लिही रात्री शांत गभीर अंबुनिधीच्या अनिल पृष्ठावरी लज्जा लेख लिही विकंपित करे ती तारका सुंदरी. I'll switch quickly to another poem which he then recites on their nuptial night, which comes after 7 years of what was then called courtship and would today be called relationship or dating. So it's a much sought after and much awaited moment. And he still chooses to recite a poem which is about unfulfilled love. So when Malati asks him, why are you doing that? He says, so that we remember and cherish this moment, this may not have happened. And it is a poem called Sangam Utsuk Doh by Madhav Julian, another great poet. एकत्र गुंफून जीवित धागे प्रीतीचे नर्तन नाचलो मागे एकटा उभा मी येथे भोवती शोधी प्रियते होऊन मग्न त्या क्षणी धावती येती साजणी देशील ना मग कसून खेव बांधतील वर तोरण देव बाजत जंगल मंगल गान कड्यातून खाली ओतून प्राण होऊनी काशाय रंग प्रेमाने बेहोश दंग पाऊगे समाधी सागरी अंत अजून संपेना वैशाख हंत. So the pond is eager to meet the ocean, but the cursed season of Vaisak does not end.
So you see the versatility of ma'am. I mean, she's into music, art, mythology, Marathi, Shakespeare, Kalidas, whatnot. I think we are running short of time, so I will urge all the audience to read this book. It's a fantastic book, which has been released in Telugu recently.
Yes.
In Vijayawada.
Yes, by Pavan
By
Kalyan.
Pavan Kalyan,
Yes.
who is a hero of Telugu films. And it's going to be released in Marathi on 29th in Mumbai.
Yes.
And it's going to turn into a web series. So it's a very
Yes.
exciting work, one of the fantastic works of the modern times.
Thank you, sir.
I
Thank
don't
you
think
so
we
much.
have time, ma'am, to throw the session open. She's already there,
Okay.
staring at me. So thank you very much. Thank
Thank you.
lovely audience.
Thank you all very much.
Do read the book and do see the web series.
Thank you so much,
Thank you very
Manoj ji.
much.